Hello everybody, welcome to Lecture 10, which is in week 7. It's the only lecture for this week. I'm talking about presenting your data. Okay, all right. So in this lecture, I'm going to talk about knowing your audience, referencing plagiarism and ethics, tools for presenting data in different ways, marketing research reports, and making presentations. So I'm stepping a little bit beyond the textbook in this lecture. I want to sort of hopefully give you an idea of some of the different ways that you can actually communicate your data, because when you do marketing research, you don't just do it as a marketing researcher for a client. Yes, you do that, but there are lots of other reasons why you might want to do marketing research, and they might necessitate different audiences to communicate. So marketing research reports are the common thing that people use when they're doing marketing research, but you find that lots of people who do marketing research want to communicate their findings to wider audiences than just people in offices. Okay, so the reading for this is chapter 16. That'll talk about the marketing research report, and I'll talk about a few other things as well. Okay, all right, so we're up to step 11, the final step of the marketing research, as we identified in lecture 2 all those lectures ago. Prepare and present the final research report. Okay, so presenting your data. Know your audience, be creative, be clear, and seek feedback. You know, what you think might be clear and what you think people might want to know isn't necessarily what they actually want to know. And so as a marketing researcher, you should probably have a good idea of the characteristics of your audience, particularly if they're the people you've researched. And in that, you might be able to formulate some key things that preferences and ways of communicating that people prefer. Sometimes that can actually be built into your marketing research project as well. All right, okay, so here we go. I love this little diagram. Relevance, what you want to say and what they're actually interested in. So then where those two merge is where you have actual relevance in your message, okay? And so you need to really have a good idea, you need to have a good idea about what you want to say, but you also need to have a good idea about what they actually want to know. And where those meet is where you should be targeting your message when you're communicating anything at all. I think I've put a little thing up there. Why knowing your audience is the key to success. So you can have a look at that if you like. It's kind of interesting. And I think there's another one that links to as well. It might be in the next page. Okay, so you need to know who the audience is. You might know your audience already personally. It might just be your boss or your client, but sometimes it's a broader audience. So it's good practice to work to the lowest level of understanding in that audience. Well, my partner is red-green colourblind. He doesn't have a low level of understanding, but if you send him a message and it's got red writing on a black background, he won't see it. Sometimes he won't even just see red writing at all anywhere. So, you know, things like that are important to be thinking about. Some people may be really intimidated by big words. They might not, they might feel inferior, that they don't know very much. And if you use clear terms that are common terms, not only do you sound like you know what you're talking about, strangely, the simpler your words, sometimes the more you sound like you know what you're talking about, you may also get people on board a lot better. Okay, and you've also got to think about whether you have primary and secondary audiences. So, for example, your primary audience for your marketing research report might be your boss, but you know for a fact that he is going to distribute that out to some key clients or even further and beyond. And so you've got to try really hard to satisfy both levels of audience. Okay, so please be aware of cultural differences in particular. Okay, certain people don't like things said or done in certain ways. It's very important to be aware of, particularly if there's some really strong cultural norms. Obviously, you know, some of the really obvious ones in our time are around, you know, people's attitudes towards women, people's attitudes towards death, people's attitudes towards modest clothing should be about, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. So it's really important to understand in your examples. So when you're giving examples, which often are, you know, a good way of communicating, it's really good to understand what might be a good example to use with people and what might not be. Okay, so you've got to think about preconceptions and biases. So you've got to think about whether people are maybe from the outset quite sceptical about what you have to say. So you might want to be thinking about how you can actually make that message work better for you and be a bit clearer. You know, if you know that people are going to be against you or against what you have to say, then you might want to be thinking about addressing it head on and say, I know that you might think this and this, or you may be, you may consider this. So you've got to be very, very careful about how you do that, because people might take exception to the fact that you might think you know what they're thinking. So sometimes, you know, for example, you might think, I know for a fact that these people truly believe that beach balls only sell in summertime in Australia. And they are really not ready to be convinced that there is a wide market of people who live in the tropics who actually purchase beach balls year round. And so you can actually say it's a commonly held misconception that beach balls are only purchased during the traditional summer months in Australia. However, people swimming swimming pools and go visit the beach year round in the rest of the nation, and thus we actually have a market for that. So you can actually address it. Level of understanding, as I've said, you've got to really think about what people have as a perception already, what they, I think I've pretty much covered that point actually. Okay, language. Clear, you need to be clear and concise. Actually, it doesn't matter what language anyone speaks, you need to be clear and concise. But when you're thinking about using colloquial terms, for example, I think in your assignment, I've used, in your assessment too, I've used the word your bosses. Quite funny, after I'd written that, my boss said to me, you know, that's actually quite a colloquial term and you should say supervisor. So I'm using... next time I write that assignment, I'll probably use supervisor because it's more a language that's accepted across a wider audience. So there's a lot of colloquial terms in Australia. There's probably a lot of colloquial terms right across the world that I'm not aware of. So you've got to be really thinking about what's international language versus what's your common cultural language. And also the interests and values, what people hold dear, what people believe to be true. So thinking very hard about what place people are coming from to get towards, to get to the point of actually listening to you as well. Okay, there we go. Okay, so target your message. Okay, these are the things, who, what and why. You must know, what do you want to say? You must know who you want to say it to. So that's sphere 1, sphere 2. But really importantly, there's a deeper understanding about this. You need to understand, why are you saying it? Why is it important? Are you hoping for some action? Are you hoping for some people to purchase some stuff? Are you hoping for people to have greater, broader understanding? Are you hoping for people to agree to fund your product because you have evidence that suggests that it will be purchased? You need to know why, and you need to continually come back to the why. And this is in the research objectives. When you're thinking about your research objectives, think about why this research is being done. It's very important to continually ask yourself that question when you're communicating with people and when you're actually doing the research and designing it. All right, referencing plagiarism and ethics. Okay, all right. Now, we've talked about this before, but I'm going to go over it again. Present your own work as your own and acknowledge others. Very simple. Reference, if you use an idea, a data or image that is not your own, anything, you need to acknowledge the author by referencing it. This also adds credibility to the report. Now, referencing, there's guides on the CQ website. I think there's a guide on our Moodle as well about this. APA referencing is what we use in this subject, in this unit. And so there is a format. There is a way to write your referencing for every kind of reference that you can imagine, from reports to images to newspaper articles to actual academic literature. Okay, plagiarism is representing the work of others as your own. If someone else has an idea There's a difference. You can have a chat about stuff and come up with something. Now, that's not a published idea, and you can present that. You can acknowledge the input of others, but you can present that as an idea. But when you've read something and you want to put it in and refer to it, or you think, oh, that's a good idea, that could really help myself, refer to it, and that adds credibility to what you're saying, because it shows that you're aware of other arguments. Because there's a good chance that if you're stealing stuff and ideas from other people, there's a really good chance that other people might know about that too. If they're listening to you, they might be listening to other people as well. Okay, ethics. Ethical behaviour means doing the right thing even if no one knows about it. Okay, this includes acknowledging the authorship and intellectual property of others. Yes, that's referencing. Yep. Being honest. Okay, and transparent about your research process. Okay, what you did do, what you didn't do, and what your limitations are. By treating those you're researching with respect and dignity, and treating colleagues with respect and dignity. Okay, there's many ways of presenting. So this is tools for presenting your data. And there's many ways of presenting your data, and it depends on your audience. So you've got to really think about the why again, all right? Ask yourself, do they need in-depth detail or a general indication of results? Do they trust you enough to just have the results presented, or do they need to actually see in detail how you arrived at these answers? Okay, so it's sometimes, it's always good to explain to some level how you arrived at your results, but if you know that people fully understand a process that you've been through, you probably don't need to go through it in massive detail. You can just say, I conducted this analysis, and this analysis, and these are the results. People who are much more sceptical may need to see appendices or supporting spreadsheets that actually show you calculations. So it just depends on how strongly you need to prove yourself. Okay, can your audience interpret your statistics, or do you need to walk them through what they mean? Okay, so you can say, oh, the p-value is this and the this is this, and so I've come up with this eta squared value of this. What is that? What does that mean? In most cases, even for academics, you would then say, this means that this is statistically significant for these reasons. This means this is a significant outcome, or this is not, okay? So you need to actually say, this is what I've done, this is the calculation, and this is what it means, yeah? Okay, next ask yourself, what are the burning questions your audience has about the research? Why are you telling them this stuff? Why? What is it you want them to do? What is the action required out of it, okay? Why are you there? Very existential question. All right, okay, so here's some suggestions from me of ways that you can present data. All right, infographics. Great visual tool for explaining results at a superficial level. I use infographics all the time. I don't make many of them, but I use them. They're fact sheets that often come out, and they often tell me exactly what I want to know about a key thing. I think, oh, I wonder how many people visited Cairns last year. I can find a nice little fact sheet from Tourism Tropical North Queensland, and they'll say, this many people visited Cairns last year. So I'm like, right, thank you. And that's it. I don't have to plough through lots of statistics. It just gives me the key things that I need to know. Okay, obviously it has some pros and cons. I haven't done a pros and cons list for these. I probably should have, but there are some cons. Obviously it doesn't have the depth of detail in it. So people need to trust that what you're saying is right, or they have to have access to supporting data. The Tourism Research Australia will present you with 3 different ways of reading their data: a summary fact sheet, a full Excel spreadsheet, and then a summary Excel spreadsheet. So they will show you all the ways that they came to this data, so you can see that for yourself. So that they're proving that they have integrity if people need to dig deeper, which means that people usually trust what they have in their fact sheets. Okay, it can be online with click-throughs, flat or printed. Okay, so by flat I mean an online copy that doesn't have any click-throughs, or you can actually have it and go, oh, okay, I want to know how many people went on holiday, but how many Chinese people spent money on holiday. So I can actually click on that and get down to maybe, it takes me straight through to an Excel spreadsheet that might tell me how that's broken down by region, or region they spent it in, region generated from China, or whatever. or you can print it. And the cool thing about an infographic is it's something that you can easily hand out. If you're giving a presentation and you need to hand something out, this is something that you can do, and people love stuff like this because they find it easy to understand usually. But note there, they still have some small information there to try and explain a couple of things. So some narrative as well, quite useful. It interacts, yep, no, I think I've covered everything. It interacts with a range of communication tools such as social media and email. So this is really great because it's easy, it's small file size, and you can go, wow, I posted this on Facebook, this is really interesting. You can take one infographic and go, oh, isn't this amazing, and share it on Twitter, email this out to people. It's not massive, so it's not going to clog anyone's email up. So yeah. Now PictoChart, I've given you, I don't know why, but I thought I had a PictoChart link there. But if you just Google PictoChart, you'll see it. That's a free online one. I've set the tutorial this week around using PictoChart, so you can actually give a little bit of a summary about, I can't remember exactly what I wrote in the tutorial, but along the lines of doing a summary, so you can actually create your own PictoChart to communicate some information. Right. There's others, of course. There's lots of others. It's just one that's kind of handy and online. All right, okay, so videos and YouTube is another way that you can actually present your data. It can be very high-tech and explain things in a stimulating way. I really encourage you to have a look at this. I find this really quite cool. This is Hans Rosling actually showing 200 years of, sorry, I think it's actually the 20th century. I think it might be, or even, anyway, it's 200 countries. So it's taking 200 countries and actually showing how they've developed on an age that 75 years is the age, life expectancy versus income, average annual income, I think is how it's worked out. Anyway, look, he's just kind of cool the way he does it. And it also interacts with a range of communications tools, because obviously you can share that quite easily and people quite like YouTube videos. You can send links through email, you can embed it on websites, you can use it in presentations, so it can communicate messages. But yet again, you usually need to have some supporting documentation that shows how you've come across these things. That has nearly 8 million views. Look at that. So it's, a lot of people quite like that one. All right, web pages and online media. Okay, so this is my Rhythm of Food. I've given a link on the Moodle site as well. If you just click on it, it's pretty cool. So web pages and online media, it can clearly convey complex information with animation, click-throughs and visual aids. So they can give you this lovely interface of, you know, if you have a web page that's showing you this stuff, this is actually animated. When you click on it, this actually shows over time, over the year, how searches for apricots are globally conducted on Google, which is kind of interesting. Quite interesting to see the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere, one where maybe the seasons are different too. Okay, so it can be three-dimensional to link to deeper information if required. So there's quite a lot of ways that you can use that. You can put it on your website and it's quite interactive. I'm not 100% sure what tools people have available for that, but have a look at the Rhythm of Food one just as an example of what they do, because it's cool. Okay, marketing research reports. Well, there we go. Here's a market research report here, stage 1 qualitative research report, which is often stage 1, as we know. Okay, so this is the traditional way that we present our information that we collect when we're doing marketing research. Quite often, all of those other things that we've seen have some kind of research report behind it. And most of them have the basic components of what I'm going to describe to you. So you can be creative, you can have graphics, you have really good design, and you know what, the better, you know, the more of that sort of stuff, the better, you know, you can really communicate your message a lot better. But in the end, It doesn't matter if it's a marketing research report, if it's any kind of report, any kind of written matter that's written in a professional way, usually has the majority of these things in it. So front matter, body and end matter, which is the terminology used in the textbook. Okay, so front matter, right, title page. There's usually a title page, and I think, yep, there we go. There's some title pages. They don't have all the information on them that they should. I don't think, oh yeah, this has got a date, but it doesn't have a date. Okay, but lots of the reports I read these days don't have a date on the front. I'm not sure why. I think it's probably quite remiss. You should usually have a date of publication on the front of a report. Okay, so you have the title of the document, organisation or person the document is prepared for, and who prepared the document, a date of report, abstract, okay, date of report, all right, sorry, title, that's it. Okay, then beyond that, usually, now they had this listed further down. I always put my abstract right at the very front, so it really depends on the norms of the people you work for and what your preferences are and what your client's preferences are, more importantly. Okay, so your abstract or executive summary is basically summarises all the important bits into a page or paragraph, depending on how big the report is. It'll indicate what your key results are. It'll indicate how you did the research. So it'll give you a little bit of a sentence from almost every part of your report. Okay, authority to conduct the report. Sometimes you need one of those to show that you are, in fact, have been commissioned to do this. So memo of transmittal. So sometimes you need to actually show, yeah, that's very formal, but it's to make sure that people understand where the document has come from and gone to, and has, authorised people, particularly if it has copyright issues on it. Table of contents usually, and list of tables or figures sometimes, quite often actually. This is for reports generally. So steps of sustainable tourism. It's not a marketing research report, it's just a report. But pretty much all reports follow this same sort of thing. There we go. This is the human development report from UNWTO, I think. So this is just an example of the table of contents. It's really big, but you can see that on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, you've got chapters 1 to 6. Then you've got a statistical annex that actually explains the statistics behind what they're actually discussing, so that you're not getting bogged down in statistics. That's actually quite a good way of producing a report. So you sort of give the stuff, but then give this deeper stuff if people are going to look for it. Figures and boxes is how they've explained this. So that's a list of, so if you're looking for a particular image, you can find it and go to it. Okay, so the body of the marketing research report. All right, you should know this by now because I'm pretty sure you would have done some kind of research, some kind of essay, some kind of assessment that requires a standard structure. This is very standard. Sometimes it's written in a professional way, sometimes it's written in an academic way, but in the end, this is essentially the structure of most written communication. Okay, so you have your introduction, explains why the research is important and how it came about, identifies the aim and objectives, introduces and defines key terms, often introduces the context. You can have a context section separately if you want. So, explaining the city or whatever it is, and describes how the report is structured. Okay, so that's, this report is going to tell you this, this and this. It's going to discuss methods, and then it's going to discuss results, and then it's going to discuss the limitations, and then it's going to conclude with this. Yeah, but you don't put your results in there. You just say what it's going to talk about. Okay, methods. Oh, sorry, I'm scratching my nose. I have a cold. Ooh. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, just have a glass of water there. Oh, okay, all right, methods. Explains how the research was conducted, when, by whom, details of the survey administration or your survey plan or your sample plan, your sampling calculations, all of those things all go in there. Details of the analysis process too, like how you went through the process of analysing the data. It was entered into SPSS, and we conducted these tests and came up with this level of significance or whatever. Results, okay, this explains the findings of the research, usually has graphs, tables and illustrations. Please always reference graphs, figures, tables, illustrations. Anything that's not actually in the text, please reference it in the text. See figure 1, or figure 1 shows, or table 1 indicates. All right, it has to be written into your text. You have to refer to it. It's really important. Okay, limitations. Explains what the limitations of the research are and what it doesn't cover. Sometimes that's in the introduction. It just depends on what kind of report you're writing. Conclusions and recommendations. Summarises whether and how the research met the objectives. Explains what the results mean and how they can be applied. Suggests further research that might be useful. And recommends action based on the results. I think that makes pretty clear sense. Okay, end matter. All right, appendices, any supporting documents that didn't fit in easily into the report, or supporting statistical information, as in the other one, might be one way you could do that too. And the appendices should also be referred to in the report somewhere. You don't just chuck it in and hope someone happens to turn the page and look at it. You say this is shown in Appendix 1, whatever. References, okay, a list of sources referenced in the report. Usually the references come before the appendices, actually. Sorry, I put that around the wrong way. And only include references that are directly mentioned in the report. Don't give us this, I want to show you how much I've read, so I'm going to put everything in I read. What you need to do is actually only put in the references that you actually referred to and talked about. And notes, okay, sometimes used for further explanation of a point that was too long in the report. And some have quite long in notes depending on what you're actually trying to communicate. Right, form and format. Okay, this is really simple stuff. Microsoft Word helps you immensely with this. Have a hierarchy of heading levels, okay? Best to be no more than 3. Well, you can have 4 if you like, if you know, it depends on how complicated it's getting, I guess. Be clear that whatever is under the heading directly relates to it, okay? So don't get lost in your heading hierarchy. Make sure that what you're talking about relates to the wider picture that you've set in the various headings. Have consistent colour, font, size and format. Yep, okay, so just keep it all the same, all neatly justified to one side. Oh, you don't have to have that square text justification, I mean just all, you know, butted up to the left. Just so everything is clear and easy to read. Tables, graphs and diagrams have consistent colour, font, size and format again. Paragraphs, okay, a paragraph has a beginning, a middle and an end. Very important, okay? It has one idea. It discusses that idea. Okay, the first sentence states the idea, and then you discuss why that idea is true or false, or how it's been contested, or whatever. But that's it. That's what your whole thing. And then your final sentence usually is your linking sentence, which draws you into the next paragraph. Okay. For example, people say that beach balls are only used in summer, but evidence suggests that actually winter can be an important time to use beach balls also. Then you might go, okay, so the next paragraph would be, in winter, we've actually done some research which suggests that beach balls are used in heated swimming pools. And this research, blah, 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 blah. Right, there you go. So then you've linked your only used in summer argument to your actually they're used in winter argument. Okay, sentences make sense. Read them out to yourself to make sure they do. That's all I can say, because we get so many assignments that come in where people have written stuff and you just think, I'm pretty sure you didn't read that out to yourself, because if you did, you would realise that no one would understand what you're saying. So you need to actually read your stuff out loud. That's a very good way. And feel free to get proofreading or assistance if English isn't your first language. Most main campuses of CQ have assistance with English, yeah, we can help you out with that. Okay, last but not least, I think this is last, yep, okay. Making presentations. All right, prepare and practice. My 13-year-old daughter has been giving presentations at school since she was about 6. And she now knows that she never relies on her palm cards, which she invariably drops, misorders, can't read, gets nervous and rearranges the wrong way, or just simply leaves it home and the dog's eaten it, she knows that she needs to actually just learn her speech. She needs to learn the key points of her speech so she can actually get up and ad-lib if her cue cards aren't helping her. Okay? Same with your PowerPoint presentation. The cue cards of the old are probably your PowerPoint presentation of new, but sometimes you have a power cut. Sometimes your computer doesn't work, whatever. Okay, it's important to know the key points of your presentation off the top of your head. It makes you a much, much better speaker. Okay, so best presentations are well prepared and well thought out. Okay, just spend time on it. Arrive early and make sure your tools, such as your computer projector, etc., work. If you've prepared and practiced, you'll be confident and positive. Okay, clarity. A good talk is always short and to the point. And I know you might be laughing at me because I've been talking for too long. Oh, sorry, we're nearly done. But it does illustrate with detail. So you can say key points, you be clear about key points, but then you embellish it with a bit of a story. And I know that I come up with some really random stories, but hopefully that can help you a little bit in illustrating what I'm trying to say. Clear and simple slides with that communicate single message. You can also laugh because I've got probably about 16 messages on this slide, but you need to keep things clear. Simplicity of design, white space does work. And think about colourblind people, as I mentioned before. Presenting. Introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Alison and I'm lecturing on lecture 10 today, and this is what we're going to talk about. Okay, every time I start this, most of the time anyway, I try and introduce what it is we're talking about today. Okay, explain the importance of your research. Follow the report body structure. So, you know, you've got your body structure there. So introduce the study, you explain what other studies are out there, you explain why it's important that you're doing this study, how you did the study, what your results were and what your conclusions are. And then you say thank you at the end. All right, so I get to say thank you.